Welcome back. Taking the discussion on trust and transparency forward, I have with me Mr. B.K. Chaturvedi, former Cabinet Secretary, Government of India. Ranen Banerjee is partner and leader, public finance at PwC India. Gentlemen, thank you very much, both of you, for being here. Mr. Chaturvedi, let's just set the context for this discussion. Why are questions raised in the first place when government finances are discussed and put under the scanner?
One of the major reasons is that government's budget making is quite often does not give full disclosures. Take for example the question of cesses. You impose a cess, you have the cess on recently on education earlier, on oil, on Swachh Bharat, on roads. But that amount is not fully utilized. They just impose a cess. Then recently issues have been raised regarding this distinction between the revenue expenditure and the capital expenditure. Earlier when capital expenditure was made, it was said that it was for some buildings, some projects, and revenue expenditure was for the salaries of staff and other things. Not anymore. Point is that many of these things have not been fully considered by the government when they provide in the budget for these things. Therefore, when people say that the budget is opaque, non-transparent, and people raise questions, many of those questions actually relate to that.
Yeah. So, Mr. Banerjee, it's not just about what you show and what you don't show. It is also about how what you say you will spend is actually spent.
Yeah, so this is a question of credibility of the numbers that is there presented in the budget is also suspect, because what happens is that there is an overestimation of the revenues to manage the deficit numbers at the time of budgeting, because you have an estimate of expenditures and you want to reach a certain target level of deficits, so you estimate certain revenues. Now of course the revenues then if they don't match up to your expectations, then it's very difficult to decrease or contain the expenditures on the revenue account side, but what takes a hit is on the capital expenditures. So if you compare the budget outturns of various years on the capital outlay side of it, you would see the difference between the budgeted amounts and the actual amounts would be more than 30%.
What can be done really to improve confidence?
See, one of the most important things in this context is that we must improve our budget making exercise. Now there are a couple of things which are important in this context. First, people want to know that the taxes which they have paid, the money which has been provided, that is being wisely spent by the government. So that is one thing which government can do by getting all these schemes assessed by independent evaluators and say, yes, we provided for this money, this is being wisely spent. Then people will have greater confidence in the government's budget making exercise that yes, the money which is being provided is well done and well spent. Government also provides for a whole host of schemes. Unless we can create a confidence in people that this money is required, is being well spent, is being wisely spent, this exercise won't improve. So the basic point is that we have to improve the confidence of the people in this.
Get outside people to rate your performance in terms of how you've actually spent the money.
Absolutely.
So that is accountability to the people, but there is also accountability to investors who you will actually go to raise money in the future.
So the investors are looking at your capacity to repay, essentially. What is your credibility and what is the strength of the public finances of a country and how much confidence they can have on that. Now, if the reporting of many of the expenditures are outside the budget, so you manage many of your borrowings or expenditure, say through your public sector enterprises, or you try to not show all the subsidies that are actually being granted. So then that causes a concern among the investors as to the numbers that are being presented, even if you look at a single number of the deficits, is that deficit real, and what's the quality of the deficit?
How far are we away from actually adopting the international accounting standards?
The transparency requirements or the reporting requirements fully, or the disclosure requirements that are there is a lot of gap still to go on that path. And I think it will be a good thing if the Government Accounting Standard Board looks at and pushes for implementation of the IFSIS principles in the Indian.
Why hasn't it happened so far, sir?
Government feels that it will require a preparation of two budgets. One is the cash budget and other is the accrual budget. And they feel that this preparation of accrual budget is a huge task, and maybe it will take some time. It is a question of implementation, and I think the focus has been more on some of the other things, which is prior to the accrual accounting, which is, as Ranen was saying, improving the accounting standard themselves of many of the things which we don't have. Many of those entries there, they do not really fully relate to the international standards. So those have to be done
so
first.
Fix your book and then kind of...
Yes, so they are doing that first.
Why it has not happened? Possibly because if you are making it fully IFSIS compliant, then many of the reportings that we do outside the budget and many of the disclosures that we currently don't do, we may have to do that, and that may present a, I would say, not so healthy picture of these public finances, and that could be one of the reasons which is not, I'll say, allowing us to go full with a full speed.
But would you say there are tangible benefits to adopting this?
There would be tangible benefits, as in though in the short term we may the deficits or if combined deficits, when you take into account the contingent liabilities as well as all liabilities, may look a little worse, but then if we do that, then there will be confidence among the investors and all the stakeholders that yes, now we are presenting everything transparently, and when actually people are looking at our finances, they may already be discounting our deficits, or maybe looking at our deficits with a little suspect, with a suspicion, saying that it is probably understated. So if we are actually presenting it in a very transparent manner, it may not be taken that negatively, though the numbers may look a little worse.
Adopting these standards, Mr. Chaturvedi, is there a downside to this as well?
The FRBM says that we must reduce our fiscal deficit up to a certain level, and we had agreed that we'll reduce it up to 3%. So this is a good financial management. And what is important under these guidelines is more transparency in your accounting matters. If you are giving subsidies, give it up front.
In terms of benefits, transparency benefits to the economy, Mr. Banerjee, what are the 2 or 3 areas where you see this happening?
So one of the major things would be that if we are more transparent and if we are reporting it well, then there will be more confidence in our stability of the economy and the macro stability and the fiscal stability of the country. That of course impacts the ratings, of sovereign ratings for India, and that would lead to lesser borrowing cost even for the government, and it feeds in that if you have lesser borrowing costs, you can actually borrow more and invest it in the infrastructure that we need, and that would put us in a virtuous cycle of growth and further revenues for the government to spend on further infrastructure.
Thank you very much, both of you gentlemen, for joining me on this very special discussion. Thanks indeed.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's all we have on today's discussion. Don't miss the series finale, same time next week, where we discuss the deals scenario in India with leading experts. Until then, from the entire team, many thanks for watching. That was quick.
Yeah, Ma, don't worry. I'm driving on the new expressway and it's absolutely safe.
Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable.